To me, we look after the fishery and the fishery looks after us.
Before we went into management, it was bad.
I'm Dennis Stewart. I've been a commercial fisherman for 32 years.
I'm in Puckeridge. I'm a recreational lobster fisher. I've been snorkeling around here for about 47 years.
I'm Jeff Liggins, and I'm the scientist responsible for monitoring and assessment of the rock lobster fishery in New South Wales, and I've been doing this job for the last 20 years.
I'm Mark Cranstone, lobster fisherman for 22 years.
I'm Nick Giles. I'm a fisheries manager with the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries. I've been in and around our fishing sectors for over 20 years.
I'm Noel Gogley. I've been fishing for just over 50 years in the lobster fishery. Started on the 12th of September 1971 and have seen a lobster fishery that was virtually collapsed. When I first started lobstering, if we got one lobster per 10 traps in the shallow water, it was a good day. That's how bad the industry was.
Back before I started in the early 90s, it was pretty much Wild West type of fare. Every trap was getting pulled once or twice, 3 times sometimes by different fishermen. So it was really, there's a lot of issues.
We weren't managed properly. We got down to 6% virgin biomass, and we really needed to do something pretty drastic and pretty fast.
Look, the major management measures that came in the mid and late 1990s comprised a restricted fishery. It wasn't open slather. Included the introduction of a total allowable catch for the commercial fishery. Very importantly, the introduction of individually numbered management tags, which assisted our compliance section in limiting the amount of illegal catch that was taken. Introduction of a maximum legal size on top of the minimum legal size. That was subsequently reduced from 200 millimetres carapace length back down to 180. And the combination of all these measures was the first stage of setting up the platform or the groundwork for a recovery of the stock.
It's 100% better than it was back 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's the result of good management, making some hard decisions in the early days of the share managed fishery. We dropped the maximum size back from 200 mils down to 180 mils. That affected us up here on the far north coast a fair bit, so we had to take a bit of a bite there, a bit of a hit, but it was for the better.
The main decisions that have been put on the lobster industry was to trust the research, which they did in the 90s. That was when they protected the oversized lobsters, so lobsters aren't sexually mature till they're 2.5 kilos. Our eastern rock lobsters get to 15 kilos. The big ones actually have a chance to spawn now, and it's been successful.
There are a range of factors which have contributed to the successful recovery of the fishery to its current state. Principally, that includes having some good data collection programs. So good data is very important to being able to make effective management decisions.
Absolutely fundamental to the success and the improvements in this fishery is the cooperative approach between the different sectors that harvest eastern rock lobster, and indeed the sections of my department that are involved in the management of the lobster fishery.
We've always been paddling in the right direction, in the same direction, which has not always been the case in other fisheries, and I think that's been one of the strengths that the lobster fishery has had.
Back in the 90s, they were struggling to catch sort of 1 tonne for one business. Now, my business, we're catching about 17 or 18 tonne a year, and we're throwing back up to 7,000 or 8,000 kilos as well. And out of that 7 or 8 tonne that we've been catching and throwing back, we've been tagging. There's been a lot of recapture, so the animals aren't being harmed, and we're getting really good data on where they're travelling, and the scientists are getting really good insight on how the fishery's working and where they're going.
The fishery is taking greater catches now than it has at any stage since TAC management was introduced in the mid-90s. Fishermen are taking that catch in a much more efficient way, because they are taking their catches using less effort, a lesser number of trap lifts. So therefore also the economics of their fishing has improved vastly.
We've got to a point now where in the deep water we're only working 32 traps this year, where 4, 5, 6 years ago we were working anywhere up to 80 traps in the deep water. We're now able to cut back in costs. We don't have to go to sea every day. It's just so rewarding to see how a proper managed quota fishery can be.
In addition to the dramatic improvement in indicators of fishery success that my team measures and the department measures, over the last 2 decades, the price that fishers have been willing to pay for shares in this fishery have increased from approximately $800 a share to approximately $15,000 a share now. And that's important because that's a measure of the confidence that investors, that fishers have in the management of this stock, the sustainability of this stock, and the future of their fishing businesses harvesting this stock.
Yeah, like I'm involved in a few fisheries, and the lobster fishery is by far the most, I'm most confident about. So definitely, so it just gives me especially to encourage my sons to come into the fishery, knowing that they'll have a future there because of the sustainability and the steps that we've put in place to look after the fishery.
Yeah, we're all sharing in the gold now, and it's only going to get better.